Okay, today I'm going to try to touch up the leather in the ZR1 Corvette with this Seat Doctors leather and vinyl dye. Now, I ordered this by sending in the paint code for the ZR1. It's Saddle 1991 leather color code. And I've watched some videos from this guy, Andy at Seat Doctors, and I'm ready to try this. So we'll be using some foam brushes and also just some lint-free paper towel to rub the dye into the leather. Let's have a quick look at the leather in the Corvette here. Car's got 88,000 miles on it, so it's seen some use. The passenger seat's pretty good. The bolsters really aren't cracked at all. I think I'm going to leave them alone. The bottom part of the seat here, you can see, has some discoloration, so I'm going to clean up the bottom cover of the seat here. And then there's this rip here, which was even wider when I first got the car. I've stitched it together. I'm no upholsterer, tough word to say, but this was all apart and the foam was coming out when I got it, so I've stitched this back together. It doesn't look great, but it looks better than it was, and my main concern was stopping the ripping from continuing. Okay, so I've done that. I'm just going to touch this discolored stitch up here with the leather dye, and hopefully that'll just help it blend in a little bit more. I think to do this properly, you'd have to start replacing patches of leather or take it to an upholstery shop. I'm not going to do that on this car. Going around to the driver's side, so we're on the front here. You can see the driver's side bolsters look much worse. You got this cracking and discoloration in this bolster and down here, and even down here, the front of the seat. You can see it's rather discolored. So the driver's seat has seen better days. Interestingly, none of the stitching is coming apart on the driver's seat like it did on the passenger side. We're going to see what this leather dye does to these weathered seats. The first step, I'm told, and I've never done this before, so this is I'm flying blind here. I'm just going based on one YouTube video that I watched. Okay? And I'm going to put this one up here and just for you guys to see what it looks like for a newbie to do this. I'm just going to take a little bit of water on a paper towel here, a clean paper towel. Not much, just a little bit, just moisten it. And I'm going to clean this leather off just to make sure there's nothing left on it. I believe you can use simple green for this purpose as well, but these seats are quite clean. I have cleaned them several times. Never with a leather cleaner or any kind of silicone-based goop. Just with basically soap and water. So I'm just going to give them one more wipe down where I plan to apply the leather dye. And just make sure we got all the gunk out of there. There's some gunk between the grooves. And we'll let that dry completely. We don't want to have any water contaminating the dye. So I'll let that dry for about a half an hour, and then we'll start applying the dye. All right, we'll use the Corvette hood with the towel underneath as a workbench here. So we'll start with just shaking up the dye. And I'm going to put it in this little container, just a little bit to start with. And I think I'll do this most crude area first. Right? So I'm going to do this cracked area first and just dab some dye in there. I don't think I can make this look any worse, so I'm just going to get some of this dye into those discolored areas. Okay, now as that dries, the color should start to even out and match the leather. They say test it in an inconspicuous area first. Well, this is a pretty conspicuous area, but that's okay because I don't think we can make it look worse. So this is going to be my color test. We'll let that dry and see what it looks like. Okay, moving on to the driver's side seat. Try this other method. The other thing you can do is take one of these lint-free paper towels and put a little bit of dye on it. I think go sparingly here. Just put a little bit like that on. Just kind of rub it in. And I'm going to test. There's a little spot right here. I don't know if that's showing in the light. But I'm going to rub the dye into this little panel here. Just like this. And we'll let it dry fully as well and just check for color match. If it all looks good once it's dry, then we'll proceed and we'll do these more heavily damaged areas. Just kind of go in all different directions and try and rub that dye in. And we'll do a couple of coats as well. We'll let this dry. I think dyeing leather like this is an exercise in patience, you know. You don't just smear a whole bunch on, you put light coats on and just keep applying it until things start looking better. I'm just going to do this area in here too. Just in here, and then we'll call it a day. Let this dry overnight. You can also dry it with a hair dryer, apparently, or a heat gun on low heat, if you're in a hurry. But I think I'm just going to let it air dry overnight. We'll leave it in the garage and then come back and check it tomorrow and put some more coats on. Just kind of blend it in. So that's the first trial coat, and we'll come back when this is dry. I'm going to give it overnight to dry and make sure it's really dry. He doesn't want that, he just wants the... Okay, so the leather's dyed. I think it looks pretty good. It's definitely evened out the color. There's that cut part in the middle there, which I've stitched together. I think it looks better now that you can't see all the white. Just compare and contrast to what was there before. This passenger seat was pretty good. I just rubbed some coloring into, mostly into this area here where we had some streaking and some marking on the front here. But up here where there wasn't much fading or damage, I didn't color any of the leather that looked good from the factory. I just touched up some of the streaking and some of the white marks. Now over on the driver's side I did a bit more work. Remember, this first bolster here is the one that wears out quickly. That was the one that had all the lines in it, so compare and contrast that. Looks much better with color rubbed into all those lines and the whole bolster being evened out. I will say the color is a little bit different than the faded original, and again, I didn't rub any coloring in here. You can see the coloring is slightly different, I think because of the fading on the original. So at some point I might rub some dye into this just to make it even, but right now I didn't want to rub any coloring into good factory leather that wasn't visibly damaged. There was lots of discoloration in here too that's been fixed. And you can check out my other video for the hole that I repaired right here. Right here there was a hole, and I repaired that hole and dyed over that as well. But overall I would say this took 10 years off the seats at least. So thanks to Seat Doctors for selling me this product. I'm pretty happy with it, and I would use them again. I don't have any stake in that company or anything. I just bought the product and it seemed to work fairly well. So thank you, and thanks for watching this video of refreshing the leather on this 91 Corvette. With an ugly emblem. I've got a new one that I'm going to put on. That's the original. Thanks for watching.